There's a quote from my personal hero, Paul Wellstone, that I love. Paul said, "The future belongs to those who are passionate and work hard." Well, we were passionate and we worked hard, and now the present belongs to us. Which means we've finally gotten to the tough part. We now have to fight twice as hard just to keep what we've won, let alone build on it. As Paul Begala has said, this is a movement, not a monument. We can't afford to stand around and admire it. We have upset the apple cart over the past few years. Conservatives are now miserable, and that means they're motivated. And they don't just want to win elections, they want to prove that everything I've said about the strength of our movement is wrong, that our success has been a fluke of history. Remember how we felt 5 years ago when Republicans were talking about a permanent majority? Well, they look at the new strength of the progressive movement and it makes them feel the same way we did. They look at how we prove them wrong and they're just as motivated to stop our momentum as we were to stop theirs 5 years ago. You can tell they're motivated because they're spending boatloads of money. Corporate special interests have pledged more than $200 million for this election. One oil man, one guy, gave $1 million to Karl Rove for attack ads. And of course, thanks to the Citizens United decision, corporations now spend unlimited sums of money. They can now spend unlimited sums of money directly attacking candidates who try to stand up to them. It all adds up to a tough year for many Democrats who are seeking re-election and a dangerous year for our movement. The Senate would be a very different place if Harry Reid and Barbara Boxer and Patty Murray and Russ Feingold weren't there. The House would be a very different place if Nancy Pelosi weren't the Speaker and John Boehner were. See how different? Very. And the history of our country will be very different if it records that our movement sputtered out in 2010. And that's why Midwest Values PAC has launched its first money bomb. It did it a few weeks ago. On the screens next to me are the names of hundreds of people from all over the country who have pledged donations. These motivated progressives are fulfilling their pledges this weekend because when you're part of a community like this one, even a $20 contribution can make you part of something special. We've got to support great Senate candidates like Joe Sestak and Jack Conway and Robin Carnahan, and great House candidates like Julie Lassa in Wisconsin and Brian Lentz in Pennsylvania and Joe Garcia in Florida, and Minnesota's own Terrell Clark, who's giving Michelle Bachmann the fight of her life. We've got to continue to do what I set up NVP to do in 2006, make it clear to Democrats all over the country that if they'll stand strong for our values, we'll stand up for them when it counts. Now, I know that some of you feel like after all you've done to elect Democrats, you haven't really gotten your money's worth. Well, I'm frustrated too. I've been part of the progressive movement a lot longer than I've been part of the Senate. Like you, I wish we'd gotten the public option. I wish we could do education reform and immigration reform this year. I wish we could have public financing in time for this year's election. So yes, we can all be disappointed sometimes. But don't for a second think that you are not being heard. I go to lunch with all the Senate Democrats every Tuesday, and I can tell you that your voice matters in that room. There's a story about FDR. He was approached early in his presidency by a labor organizer and civil rights leader named A. Philip Randolph. Randolph laid out a progressive agenda and urged the president to act on it. FDR told Randolph that he agreed with everything he had suggested, but the president issued a challenge to Randolph. He said, "Go out and make me do it." The progressive movement has made Congress do some great things. On health reform, we didn't get everything we wanted, but we did expand coverage to 32 million more people. We did get a medical loss ratio, a provision that Stephanie told you about that I authored, which requires that insurance companies spend at least 85% of their premiums on health care, which leaves just 15% for administrative costs and executive salaries and marketing and profits. On Wall Street reform, we didn't get everything we wanted, but we did get a Volcker rule and an open exchange for trading derivatives and an independent Bureau of Consumer Financial Protection. These bills were better because you made us make them better. But I agree we haven't won nearly enough. And I know that progressives are frustrated, not just because we haven't gotten as far as we thought we would, but because it sometimes feels like not everybody in our party is pushing forward at the same pace. We have a lot of Democratic votes in Congress, and that's a good thing, but we don't have enough progressive votes to pass the agenda that you and I want. And I'm not satisfied with how far we've come, and I'm not alone. Sherrod Brown isn't satisfied. Sheldon Whitehouse isn't satisfied. Tom Udall isn't satisfied. Jeff Merkley isn't satisfied. Bernie Sanders is extremely dissatisfied. Now, I don't think it's a coincidence that most of the members of our little coalition of the impatients have joined the Senate since the Netroots became a political force to be reckoned with. We wouldn't be senators without your support and without the inspiration and motivation we draw from this community. We wouldn't be the kind of senators we are. We need you. We need you to send us more senators like Sherrod and Sheldon and Tom and Jeff and Bernie. And that's why, no matter how frustrated you are, you can't check out now. It only took a few years for the progressive movement to establish a foothold in Congress, but it's going to take a little longer for us to have enough votes to pass the agenda that you and I want. Now, I'm not going to tell you to be patient. That would be hypocritical, because I'm not patient either. But while we're shaking our heads at the things we didn't get, Republicans are making plans for taking back the things we did get. And we cannot let this happen. If Republicans take back Congress, they'll implement a truly dangerous agenda. Everything is on the table, from repealing health care reform to privatizing Social Security. Republicans have nominated a Senate candidate in Kentucky who has questioned the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And one right here in Nevada, and it is Nevada, not Nevada, it's Nevada. And one right here in Nevada who can't stop bringing up the prospect of armed revolt. If they take the House, Joe Barton, who famously apologized to BP for what he called a shakedown, he will be the chairman of the Energy Committee. And Darrell Issa is promising to double his staff and embark on a witch hunt in the hopes of bringing down the Obama administration. We have seen what happens when Republicans take control of Congress with a Democratic president, and it ain't pretty. Meanwhile, we are teetering on the brink of a double-dip recession, but Republicans won't address the economic imperative for more stimulus. They hide behind big talk about deficits as if deficits suddenly appeared at noon on January 20th, 2009. The hypocrisy is amazing. The hypocrisy is amazing, but it's beside the point, because there's a real human and economic crisis going on out there. I've seen it all over Minnesota, believe me. And Republicans just want to make it worse. When they talk about cutting spending, they certainly don't mean defense spending, even though experts from all over the ideological spectrum, including the Secretary of Defense himself, said there's enormous waste there.